I have 3 stories for you this morning. It was a dark and cloudy day in Switzerland. We were near Lucerne and hoping to take the cable car up Mount Pilatus. They say that the view from the top of Pilatus takes in the whole range of the snow-capped Bernese Alps. It is quite astounding. The kids were very disappointed. What's the point of paying all this money to go up if we can't see anything when we get there? Fair enough question, especially given the strength of the Swiss franc. The lift people were pretty upbeat. Trust us, it'll be fine when you get there. Well, they would say that, wouldn't they? Cousin Franz runs the cafe at the top. Either way, they would do very nicely. Love the Swiss. Well, I am married to one. Anyway, we duly took out a second mortgage, climbed aboard, and zoomed off skywards into the murk. The cable car was dark and cold. The cloud grew thicker and thicker. The moaning increased, when on the final ultra-steep section, we suddenly burst out into the sunlight. In front of us at the top, rising from a sea of cloud, were the giant snow-capped peaks of the Eiger, the Mönch, and the Jungfrau. All the mountains in the Bernese chain were glittering in the bright sunshine. What a moment of enlightenment. It was worth our persevering into that light. Sometimes moving into the light takes a bit of work. We heard how even the good Lord had to do a DIY running repair on a blind man. As he walked along, Jesus saw a man blind from birth. He spat on the ground and made mud from the saliva and spread the mud on the man's eyes, saying to him, "Go wash in the pool of Siloam," which means sent. And then he went and washed and came back able to see. Astonishment all round. No one, rich or poor, religious, educated, ignorant, could quite work out what had happened. But one thing they did know, as the man said, "I was blind, but now I see." Ring any bells? What a moment of enlightenment, moving from the murky gloom of blindness to the dazzling Middle Eastern sunlight. For him, it was worth Jesus persevering. Second story. A lifetime ago, when I was a music undergrad at the Royal Academy of Music, we were taught that while they had some good bits, the operas of Georg Friedrich Handel were obsolete. Oh, some good stuff here and there, but quite unperformable today, all those fiddly little scenes. Same with Mozart. Most of his operas have been famous for donkey's years, Così, Figaro, Giovanni. But Idomeneo and Clemenza di Tito, the 2 Italian opera serie he wrote, are ghastly old relics, said the scholars and critics. So bad, in fact, Clemenza clearly shows that Mozart was past his peak. But nothing could be further from the truth. And as a musician, one of the great enlightenments of my generation has been the rediscovery of Handel and Mozart's mastery of Italian opera seria. Don't believe me? Well, listen to William Christie's recording of Handel's Alcina, or the Pavarotti and John Pritchard recording of Mozart's Idomeneo. It might take a little work, but your eyes and ears will be open to the greatness of their artistic and musical genius. What a moment of enlightenment. It will be worth persevering. To stay with the musical line for a moment, however talented someone is, there comes a point where you have to do the work. To stay with the musical line, you see, it's the same in sport. Great things don't just happen, do they? Those talents must be trained and refined to be of a real use. You must do the work. Wish I'd learned that earlier. Hey-ho. As a priest, over the last 37 years, I must have taken rising 1,000 weddings. Back then, we could have 6 on a Saturday. If one bride was late, the hill down from the church would become stacked up with limos containing tearful brides and irate dads. Remind me to tell you about the pony and trap containing 6 bridesmaids. You can buy books on how to have the perfect marriage. You can buy books on how to play the piano. You can buy books on how to win friends and influence people, but one thing they miss out: you must do the work. Even Jesus had to do the work. Out there for 40 days in the wilderness, wandering around with a bunch of local fishermen later on, catching it from the establishment and the religious hierarchy. But I do love it that the Creator, Son of God himself, had to fiddle around with spit and mud to fix someone's eyes. And what a moment of enlightenment. It was worth persevering into the light. If Jesus had to, what price our perseverance? Well, you can see where this is going. Third and final story. Back in 2014, this cathedral and other colleges decided to start a girls' choir. Shock horror! The tears, the screams from a section of the establishment. But it went ahead, and not just as a little reserve group helping out on Sunday nights. A choir on exactly the same level as the boys, and singing with the same clerks, who themselves, of course, as you see, is now open to any sex, as long as you can sing the notes. And what a success it's been. In my day as a chorister at Norwich Cathedral, it would have been inconceivable. It is still inconceivable in another place. But what a moment of enlightenment. It was worth persevering. So, to finish, we all move towards the light with some help from God and our own commitment to do the work. I've told you something about my journey today. I wonder what yours looks like. Or maybe there has yet to be an awakening of the heart, as many Eastern faiths put it. But it will be worth it. A couple of weeks ago, the Friars Wide Voices held a chorister for the day, Saturday. A horde of small girls turned up and stood between the stalls to join in singing "Steal Away" with the voices and the clocks. As presenter that night, I must have given everyone in the stalls 40 years at least. Our music director, Helen, charmed and drilled them superbly. The kids all adored her. And right at the front stood a tiny girl wearing a faux leopard skin coat and sparkly boots. She beamed up at Helen and sang her little heart out. At that point, I realized my work is done. God bless you all. Amen.